Welcome to Geeks Corner. I'm Mr. Daps.
I'm Katie.
The Vikings would use bones of slain animals imbued into their iron swords in the smelting process, thinking that the bones would give the strength of said animal to their weapons, when in fact the calcium from the bones being burnt in made the first proto-steel, in fact making them stronger.
That is fascinating.
So they were right.
I mean, they were right. They didn't know how right they were. That's fascinating.
You know what else is right? Not me.
What?
I'm left-handed. My name is Cameron.
True.
You should use the hashtag Geeks Corner or talk to us on the YouTube chat to interact with us. We like interaction because it's at a premium these days, and that's pretty much the only reason we do it now.
True.
And I will have to admit, Cameron, I actually did know that fact.
Well, you're allowed one out of every few.
Every few, yeah. Growing up in northern Minnesota, we had the Leif Erikson Park along the shore of Lake Superior.
That's, November 15th is Leif Erikson's Day?
Yes. But anyway, there was this wonderful plaque, and as you were speaking, I was like, oh, I've read this before. And so yes,
that's the most northern Minnesota thing.
Once in a while, these things just happen.
I was going to say that's the most northern Minnesota thing I've ever heard, and I was like, it's not. I've heard your other stories.
Nope, there's others. There's way better ones.
What you call salad, and that's the most northern thing I've ever heard. The first ingredient should not be mayonnaise. I'm just saying.
Why not?
Or potato.
Potatoes, yes, very good. All right, well, let's hop right into the show, and I think it starts off with the big news of the day, which is that Hamilton will be arriving on Disney Plus on July 3rd. Not the cat, but the Broadway musical. And I mean, so you might throw
more familiar with the cat.
That is true.
Cute. He's a baby.
That is true. So anyway, this has gotten a lot of excitement, especially among the team here. First question, how do you feel about this coming to Disney Plus? And then we'll move on from there because I have more questions.
I'm very excited about it. I like that I don't have to wait another year and a half for it.
Mm-hmm. What is it, 15 months earlier now?
Yeah, it's supposed to be October 15th, 2021.
Yeah.
And now we get it in 2 months, which is really awesome. I wish almost that it got a theatrical release because I feel like it deserves a theatrical release. Like, this is something I would want to see in a theater setting, but I'm very happy I just get to watch it at home whenever I want.
Yeah, I think that'll be very fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost makes you want to buy the projector so you can actually put it up on a full wall.
Oh my gosh.
And like have a really good surround sound set up and like
go
all out with that.
Yeah.
The downside is we might still be socially distancing then. So then it would just be in a room where it happens by yourself. And that would be kind of a bummer because this really would be one that would be fun to have a bunch of people watching together. I'll
pay myself $20 for a little pack of peanut M&Ms and I'll make myself feel like I'm at the theater.
Okay.
The Broadway theater.
I'm sure you could pay either Cameron or I $20 and we'd be happy to give you the theatrical experience too. Like we could spill some soda on the floor and throw popcorn at you. And
I'm sorry. I'm trying to recreate the Broadway experience, which means that first I'm going to accost you as you walk to your living room and attempt to get yourself seated by trying to sell you tickets to a show that you already have.
Don't forget to push the program into your face.
Yes, very much so, which also costs $30.
Yes.
Because it's a commemorative program.
Absolutely. So what do you think, Cameron?
As excited as I am trepidatious, and I will tell you why.
Because it's probably my second question, but go.
Yeah. In an article I wrote for DAPS, a couple years ago now, I talk about my biggest movie annoyances, and many of them do apply theatrically as well. One of them is unnecessary language. And my big caveat on that is that it's not that I'm opposed to certain words or actions being done or said in film. It's just that they need to have a purpose.
Yep.
And the language is so important in Hamilton, even the explicative language, that I am very scared of censorship on Disney Plus because it's just it's the core of the wording is so important to the way Lin-Manuel Miranda writes, and even to replace words or censor them entirely it's almost a tragedy for something like that to be
You
censored.
should go beyond words, because it's not just words in Hamilton, it's themes and scenes and things that are happening. Like there's lots of things that I think will probably be further along or more adult themed than anything else that you can currently find on Disney Plus. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am.
You are wrong, and I'll tell you, Hunchback of Notre Dame addresses some of these themes.
But not as directly. And it's also not as direct.
Well, something we were talking about earlier is that, yes, there is the language and they could censor it. I hope they don't. It is all used with a very specific intent in mind. It is causing a certain feeling in people. I don't want that to be censored. There is a very important plot point in Act 2, and the entire song has themes that aren't necessarily appropriate on Disney Plus. But if they cut it, you would not understand any of the repercussions in Act 2.
It is the motivation for the second half of the show. And yeah, and it's done beautifully because it's done from a couple of different perspectives, and but it's hard. It is hard to matter.
So what do they do? Do you think what do you predict we'd see on July 3rd?
A ton of warnings. I think that there is a warning when you click on it. Much like the Netflix "Are you still watching" feature, I don't think it'll just be like a pre-roll. I think it'll be this has mature themes and adult language.
Are they going to get Leonard Maltin to do a introduction?
I just think that they'll put out you
Hello,
have to.
I'm Dame Julie Andrews.
Actually, you know what I hope they do, though? Just bringing this up is I hope that they bring Miranda in and he does that.
Yeah. And he'd be
He's the guy. And if they really want to do it completely right, they do him and Iger together doing it, just like they were on Good Morning America, I think, this morning, because they clearly have fun together. And that can be Iger's Walt Disney moment that he's never really taken. And if he really wants to go all the way with it, he can go, "Hello, I'm Bob Iger." and then he can have his Michael Eisner moment, his Walt Disney moment, and his Broadway moment as well. And I'd be okay with all that.
See, I think you're right on with the logic, but I do think it'll be Lynn, and we're on a first name basis, of him sitting with his leg crossed in a large leather armchair, drinking something with steam coming out of it, just like, "Hi, you
in
don't
Hamilton's
know,
house.
I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda." Yes. But it's going to be tough because, see, here's the thing: they're going to get, no matter what they do, they're going to have somebody angry at them.
Absolutely.
There are certain segments of the audience who, for lack of a better word, feel entitled to all content coming from Disney to be tailor fit for them. And while in some ways having something at the park that would be harder to parse for a child is a little bit more in the argument spectrum of that, whether or not it should be allowed. But as far as content put on Disney Plus, censoring art is a prickly subject. And I feel like there are certain folks that are going to be a little bit in arms if they don't realize, despite all the warnings.
And I can see the argument for both sides of that.
Yeah.
Clocky's asking, what movie rating would you give Hamilton?
So by the official standards, it would get an R rating because it does use a certain word more than once.
Yes,
there we
and
go.
More importantly, it uses that word with additives. That is another caveat for moving from
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, if you can, even if it's only used once, but it is used with certain familial relationships attached to it.
Yeah.
That also would bump it to an R rating.
So I think the real challenge is it probably is a film or whatever you want to recording that is best suited for a service like Hulu. And they're trying to fit a round peg a square peg into a round hole. Either way, it's not necessarily the best fit for Disney Plus. However, I can't imagine how many subscribers they're going to get just because of this. I was reading a book or a article earlier today about the author of the book, Ron Chernow, and I've been reading his Washington book recently. And apparently after he saw Hamilton for the first or second time, he called his publisher up and was like, "Hey, I think you're going to need to print more books." And the guys sold, I don't know, tons of books because of this show. And so if I were Disney, I would want to capitalize on that as much as possible. it'll be interesting to see how it's capitalized. I would not be surprised if you see some sort of, yes, parental warning, but I almost wonder if they're going to put it's weird to think about, but a child protection thing on it, whatever those are called. And
you re-enter your password or something like that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I could almost see something like that, which is weird to think because Cameron's right. There is a certain, like Bob Iger said it a million times, Disney is a family brand and all of that other stuff goes other places.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, like the historical aspect and the fun aspect of it totally fits in with Disney. The adult themes does not fit in with Disney. That doesn't even let its characters smoke on screen unless Tom Hanks really complains. And
No, Gonzo has smoked on screen after being launched out of that cannon.
that is true, but that was pre-Disney. They're not going back and retconning everything, but it will be interesting to see. I really hope we get to see the whole thing as it was written.
Me too. I've been a fan of Hamilton for a long time, clearly.
Over half your life.
At least. That's why this little boy is named Hamilton. He's my little baby. He just turned 4. But when they announced they had filmed the original Broadway cast all together on stage of the Richard Rodgers Theater, everyone was like, is this getting locked in a vault? Are we ever going to see this?
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that we all actually have a chance to see it, I hope I get to see it in its pure form.
One way or the other. I hope so too.
The thing that gives me hope about that is there is, I assume, an amount of artistic control that Miranda has over it, and he does not strike me as the type of person who would let it get out in any form. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be unless there's a phased release or something where they're like, here's this, and if you want to see the whole thing for $20, you can download it on Movies Anywhere. Or, whatever that is. I could see that happening too, because I think they spent, was it $95 million to buy this? Disney did. And I don't know what the profit return on that will be for Disney Plus, because it's not expected to make profit for a few years. I'm assuming this is a bump to get it there quicker, but, I'm sure they have a way of testing that. But $95 million is a lot of money.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on with the show. And Shanghai Disneyland opened this week. It was kind of one of those weird things because of time changes where, was it opening Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, something like that, as really it was Monday over there. And we saw a very empty park that was open for day guests. That was very interesting. We saw some things that went fairly smoothly, some other things that I think people won't be super happy about. But overall, it sounds like things are going as well as could be expected. And it's been interesting to see the pictures coming out. And like, there's the one that I've seen lots of people talking about because they're watching, like, it's a Chip and Dale show. And the one guy has his foot standing outside of the square and everybody's freaking out about it. And I will admit, I saw that picture and my first thought was like, that's way better than when they were in the gardens. And because remember when this park opened, they had the issue of trying to retrain all of these guests that decided gardens should be used for things traditionally used restrooms, and garbage everywhere. Like, it was kind of a crazy place. So very quickly, what do you think of the opening ceremony and the opening day of Shanghai Disneyland?
I think that people are making mountains out of molehills. I think that they're finding problems where they want to find problems. There is a lot of difference between China and the United States. There are a lot of things that happen in China that wouldn't work in the United States. And I think that people are expecting a direct comparison, and that's just not something that they can find. But I think that I'm hopeful with what I'm seeing there.
Cameron.
America's a very different culture than pretty much any other park in the world. And the nicest way of saying it is that there is a more prevalent community respect in these other countries that I just don't think we're going to be able to achieve in America.
I would actually 100% disagree with that, having visited Disneyland Paris and hearing stories that I've heard. If you're talking Tokyo, 100% agree. But in Hong Kong and China, I have heard so many different unique, I'm going to call them stories,
Mm.
that I actually 100% disagree with you on that, because that is the place where people have they don't care about fences. They don't care that you're not supposed to walk here. And that was my experience in Paris too. Like I remember at one point literally having to remove myself from a place because the guests were so horrible, not only to the people and the cast members around them, but to each other. Like a little boy walking up and starting to just whack the heck out of a guy next to him because he was in the way. And I was just like, what is happening here? Like, this is not normal or acceptable. So I don't actually think we can make any judgments off of what we think the guests are or aren't like, because they all have their weird quirks based on the stressors and the worldviews of the place they come from.
Yeah, and I agree with that to the extent of cultural differentiation. But it's not just that I'm talking about. It's also the ability of the locations, to influence the actions of the people therein. Where Shanghai and Tokyo live in let's just say the punishments would be a bit more severe if people were to act out of line, which is not to say it's a benefit or detractment either way in comparison to the American political landscape. I'm just saying that it would be a bit steeper repercussion if somebody were to step out of line in that way, especially under these conditions. I agree with Katie in that it's not a direct one-to-one comparison. I also fully acknowledge that the American parks are, especially the West Coast, not built for this kind of stuff.
I think West Coast is the biggest challenge. I actually think in many ways, Walt Disney World is more in line with, I mean, it's a better apples to apples or apples to pears maybe comparison for someplace like Shanghai and then Walt Disney World.
Orange is right there. It's in Orange County in both places.
Yeah. But so Orange is in, I don't know what Shanghai would be, but I think Walt Disney World and Shanghai probably, thank you, are probably closer than Disneyland and Walt Disney World in this regard, just because of the people that are coming to it. And I think of like when you go see a parade on Main Street in Florida, they put a piece of tape on the ground and everybody's like, oh, I guess I should stay inside the tape. And miraculously it happens, and it happens for fireworks. And they like, hey, don't show up for a show until 30 minutes before. And people don't show up to a show before 30 minutes before. And I'm like, how the heck do you do this? And then they try to do that here with parades and, opening day of Magic happens. They're like, oh, don't get there an hour before. And what was it, 3 hours before? 4 hours before half of Main Street was already packed.
We moved from California Adventure. We were like, oh.
Yeah. So I think the real big question mark is with Disneyland more than Walt Disney World. I think they'll have an easier opening in that regard. How easy, I don't actually know. But I think overall, Shanghai has done a fairly decent job of reopening and keeping things from a structural system that they've set together, more or less socially distant, it seems like.
Yeah, I think it was a best possible outcome for their opening.
And my big question is I can't wait to see how they change things in the coming weeks, like, because that they're analyzing and adjusting, and I think that will be the fascinating thing to see what changes and what doesn't change. And I saw Bob Chapek in that interview said that if things go well, they're going to be adding 5,000 extra people per week that will be allowed into the park. And I don't know if that's over the course of the week or per day. I'm assuming per day, but that'll be interesting to see as well. Clocky is making an excellent point that Shanghai does have way more space.
Shanghai is huge.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see how that plays out. One thing I did like, though, that I hope they bring over here is currently you do have to have a reservation to show up at Shanghai Disneyland. And in the fine print for annual pass holders during the reservation period, that doesn't count towards your expiration date. So that keeps getting pushed off until like it counts as the park being closed. So then if you've paid for a top of the line pass where you're supposed to be able to get in every day and you cannot, it won't charge you for those basically until you can get in every day when that's allowed again.
Yeah. I just think it's been really interesting to watch Shanghai. And like I said, I feel like people have been wanting them to fail almost. But I'm really glad that they're succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the things that came out of it also is that I think it was Bob Chapek said that when we reopen in the United States, most likely guests and cast members will be forced to wear face masks. And to me, this was like, oh, that's good. And we ran the story. What was it? Monday, Tuesday, Monday.
Yesterday.
So Monday. That was yesterday.
Oh gosh.
And I really thought that was just like, okay, that makes sense, common, whatever. I was amazed at the amount of commentary that our article,
I believe is the word.
I was surprised a little bit because to me, it kind of was like, well, if that gets us back in the park, there's way worse things. And it could be the fact that I wear a bow tie when it's 95 degrees to Disneyland. So I'm used to suffering. But I don't, am I the only person that was surprised by this a little bit? Or
So I was shocked. There was some things that I thought was interesting, and I've noticed it everywhere, is that some people think that this is a problem that Disney has to figure out. That they don't want to wear a mask, so Disney needs to figure out what to do. And that's not the case. A lot of people are like, well, what about me? And I'm like, you don't go to Disneyland. Like, that is how this works. But as many of you know, I work in a job where I face the general public. Our current model that we have of general public, the current model that we have of serving customers basically makes it the customer is in the store for maybe 10 to 15 seconds max. The amount of people that refuse to wear a face mask for those 10 to 15 seconds or make a very big stink about the fact that we simply recommend a face mask. We have a posting on our front door that says face masks recommended, but it's not required to come in, or get upset that we, the people working there, are wearing them. It's a very silly thing to get upset about, in my personal opinion. You're just kind of showing love to people around you by protecting them. But hey, what do I know?
Go ahead, Cameron.
You know who does know something?
Who?
Scientists.
The CDC.
Scientists know stuff. Y'all, I'm not normally terribly conflaggatory when it comes to opinions on this type of things, but when all of science is telling you something, it's a real good time to listen. Here's the thing. What is the worst possible outcome if the science is wrong and the face masks do nothing? What is the worst thing?
My glasses get fogged.
You get uncomfortable a little.
Your ears kind of hurt.
Isn't being uncomfortable a little worth several people's lives?
Yes!
Yeah, what if? Yeah.
You're literally showing compassion by wearing something just that goes like this.
Even if it did nothing, you are socially signaling to others that you care about them.
And there's so many cool masks out there now.
Yes!
Like I actually
and cool artists you can buy those masks from.
Yes, absolutely. And we should have prepared ahead of time so we could send people to them. But
one?
Yeah, go ahead, Megan's.
Yes, Megan. She's a dear friend of mine. I have bought 3 masks from her. Star Wars, Pixar, Disney Princess, whatever you want. She's wonderful. I believe her website is thingamajiggies.com. She's on Instagram as Meg's Thingamajiggies. If you follow me, I have tagged her in all my face masks posts. She's a wonderful person. I'm wearing her masks for 8+ hours a day. They don't slip down when I talk too much. And she's just a really nice person. So go support her because she's awesome.
That is true. Another group, another person, team, couple. That's a better word. Another, yes, all of those that you'd love to support. That would be a lot of fun. Is next Tuesday night. I almost said Thursday night because I started thinking of DAPS D&D. But next Thursday night, we are going to have a guest, well, a pair of guests on Geeks Corner. And let's see if I can make technology work. And I can. We are going to have Leg Life on with us next Tuesday night. We haven't had a guest in a while. And with the new technology, we weren't sure how that would all work. But with this setup, totally easy. And it's great. So they are going to be on. They do a lot of vlogs of the parks and in Disney cruises. And Cameron, do you want to talk a little bit more about them?
Sure. So Awesome couple. They live up in Alaska and have traveled a lot of places. They have done a Grand Slam on the Disney cruise ships. They have been on every single one. And are extremely knowledgeable about traveling in general and how to do it the correct way, and traveling when it comes to Disney. They have got some great stories and experiences up on their channel. And most importantly, they're good people. It's nice to listen to good people talk about things in a positive way.
And you can tell instantly, like the moment you turn on their video, you're like, oh, I like you. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And they're from Alaska, which is one of my favorite places. I have a lot of childhood memories from there. And I promise I won't go too deep into Alaska stuff.
The most interesting thing to me is that being in Alaska, you are landlocked kind of away from Disney parks. And a lot of their videos is bringing the Disney magic home, and doing it in ways that's super awesome. And it's just positive and happy, and you get happy watching other people do it. So they're really fun
to watch next week, and go check out their channel today or tonight. And
not right now. Wait like another 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, wait till we're done. But yeah, so make sure to come back next Tuesday night at 9:30, and don't miss that at thegeekscorner.com, because it will be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it, and you should too. And it'll be a great night. All right, moving right along. Boba Fett, Cameron's favorite Star Wars character, is coming to The Mandalorian for the second season.
All right, so my tattoo says luminous beings are we, and then the follow-up side is going to be as long as you're not Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair.
So thoughts on Boba Fett returning?
Katie, go ahead.
Should I go first?
Yeah,
because I'm just a girl with Star Wars opinions. I personally am excited to see more of the character. Not that necessarily we need characters rooted in the Skywalker saga to make the series interesting, but I do think it is interesting to see the ways they incorporate characters from the Skywalker saga. I feel like some people, in their mind, Star Wars things only hold validity if there is a connection to the movies that they know and love. I really like to see really fun original content where you go, how did they connect that? And seeing where people are in different places in the galaxy at different times. So I'm excited to see why Boba Fett, how Boba Fett, where Boba Fett.
Season 7 of The Clone Wars.
I should watch The Clone Wars, huh?
I think you all need to watch The Clone Wars before season 2 of The Mandalorian, because I think, especially the last season, there's going to be a lot of connections between that. I hate to say this, but you probably also want to watch Star Wars Rebels, because it looks like there's going to be some connections there. Well, we already know there's a connection that's major there. But
there's so many things to watch.
I think between elements of Clone Wars, elements all involving Mandalorians in Rebels, and then season 2 of The Mandalorian, it's going to tie up a lot of loose ends, including how is Boba Fett a Mandalorian, perhaps. Go ahead, Cameron. What do you think of your favorite character coming back to Star Wars?
The year was 1976, and a young George Lucas, hot off his most recent success with American Graffiti, was conceptualizing this new show, space sci-fi based loosely on Flash Gordon, called Star Wars. He was toying with the idea of what
have a the at the beginning. Then
the Star Wars.
I think it was at that time.
Drop the. Call it just
Star Wars.
Yeah. And he was conceptualizing what to make the most evil character in the universe, Darth Vader, look like. And there were many concepts that were toyed around. One of them that was thrown in the garbage was Boba Fett. And then later, when they needed a plot point to find the characters that were lost and scrambling to get things finished on time, they pulled out of the garbage the design for Boba Fett. Boba Fett's a bad character.
Hey, you know who else came out of the garbage? Forky.
Yeah, it didn't work out for him either. Point is, they have done nothing for Boba Fett to warrant the cult-like following that has come after him.
But that's exactly why he has the cult-like following, isn't it?
Exactly, he's so mysterious.
I love the mystery.
And so this is going to do one or two of two things. It is either going to flesh out a character that we know almost nothing about other than he got killed by a non-force sensitive blind man, or
but apparently wasn't killed.
It's going to ruin the one thing that makes Boba Fett special. Now, mind you, I'm very much playing a contrarian. Boba Fett's cool. All right, I get it. Boba Fett just looks cool. It's the same logic as like a Power Ranger, except he's got a jetpack with a rocket on it. It's cool.
And he disintegrates people.
Yeah, and you know nothing about him. The more you know about a character like that, where mystery is his core impetus of success, the less likely you are to be really taken with the character. So I think there's a chance of ruining the thing that makes Boba Fett so special. That being said, I personally feel like he actually does need more fleshing out. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity, especially if they play him right, to continue to make him mysterious and a force of power in the universe that just comes back out of nowhere. I think it could be done very well. And I'm actually really looking forward to it as much as I play up the hating Boba Fett thing. I think it's going to be really cool. I just hope they do it right.
And I have the same concerns as you do. My redeeming thought really comes back to Dave Filoni being an executive producer on The Mandalorian.
Love him.
And also Jon Favreau. And I feel like between the two of them, they're excellent storytellers. And Dave Filoni just has that deep love and knowledge of the lore and storytelling. So that gives me hope. As long as they don't overdo it. Like I keep hearing more and more names from deeper Star Wars lore being thrown at The Mandalorian. Yeah. And I do think there is a chance of getting too much crossfire happening and too many connections. However, they've done fine with it with Rebels and Clone Wars, which I think is probably the best correlations or things to reference when you're looking at what they're doing with The Mandalorian, it appears. So I think it'll be fine. I mean,
fan service is great if it's earned, and the Avengers Endgame is the perfect example of it. That movie is 50% fan service.
Absolutely.
It works.
Yeah.
And it's totally great.
Speaking of fan service, our final topic for tonight is we now know for sure that National Treasure is not only getting a new movie with members of the original cast, but it's also getting a series on Disney Plus that will have a new, young, and upcoming cast. We don't know really anything about that other than I believe
Shia LaBeouf.
Right. But they do have the pilot written for the Disney Plus series, and they've got the first season plotted out, and the movie is currently in process of being written. So it actually sounds like the series is further ahead than the movie. What do you think about this? Do you think they're going to have Nicolas Cage in the series, maybe as kind of a setup or a mentor or a off you go kind of guy? Are we excited about this? Are we not?
Cage is going to say, I'm putting together a team.
And Cameron's going to get up and walk out.
Putting together a team to find all the nation's secrets.
Go ahead, Cameron. You have thoughts.
I am excited, and I will tell you why.
For which one or both?
Both.
Okay.
I will tell you why. Because there are certain things that are tropes for a reason. And the mysterious, significant association with actual world landmarks and creating an adventure around them is very much a trope. The National Treasure series did not start that by any means, but it works. And it's also a perfect trope for a serial. I think it could work great in an episodic manner. I look to comparison is Doctor Who. Doctor Who episodes are the exact same thing every single time, but because it's a great canned 60-minute thing that you can do, it works. In the same way that if you pull a little bit of what I assume is going to diverge out of American lore and probably go into much more.
Otherwise, they're going to run out of stuff.
Yeah, it's only a couple hundred years to work with.
Yeah.
But as soon as you move into the world of significant artifact and cultural association, there's a lot of opportunity there, not just for good adventure storytelling, but learning. I mean, how many people were as aware of some of the details of the Declaration of Independence before National Treasure came out?
Yeah.
I think it is a good opportunity to talk a little bit more about those things. I do think it's also very important, and this is my caution, that as soon as you start delving into multicultural things, you need to be sensitive of those cultures.
And do it right.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think I'm imagining it being the young generation's version of the Young Indiana Jones series, kind of that thing-ish. You know, it might not be the same way they set it up, but that was kind of the feel I got for it when I was reading about it. What do we think about the movie? Like, what do you do? Is there another story to be told there that's that big?
I
just don't know. Like, to me,
Yeah,
I spent some time, I wrote the article, and afterwards I was like, huh,
I
what
think
are they going to go after?
The fact that we don't know is actually fairly hopeful. It means that we're going to be either pleasantly or otherwise surprised by whatever they do. So it means we don't know the story before it happens.
Okay. Any predictions?
Nick Cage yells for no reason.
Well, yes. Katie?
I've never seen any of the National Treasure movies.
Well, Disney Plus, you can get started.
Talk about running tropes. Katie not seeing something.
Sorry.
She'd already checked Hunchback off my list of movies she has to see. So at this point, she can watch or not watch whatever she wants. I don't care.
It's definitely worth. I think I don't actually remember much of the second one. The first one I really do enjoy, and
it's the perfect description. This actually came up not too recently, but I remember this conversation happening. The reason it works is because the movie has to be built around Nick Cage. Nick Cage is such a specific actor that if you put him in a different movie, say, I don't know, Ghost Rider, it doesn't really work because Ghost Rider was not built for Nick Cage.
That is true.
It's the Nick Cage focused, Nick Cage centric. National Treasure is built around Nick Cage, and it works because of it.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. All right. Well, we will see what, if anything, happens with both of these, because everything's an unknown, I feel like, in entertainment. So even though scripts exist and are being created, that doesn't really mean anything until we have a real release date, I think, is probably the best approach. So I guess it's this time.
You should go to thegeekscorner.com if you're not there already watching it. TheGeeksCorner.com is the place that we put all of these episodes, including all the ones that came before and the ones that are to come, Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m.
You can go to dapsmagic.com, check out all the Disney and geek news as it happens, because things are actually happening now. It's kind of nice. Subscribe to our mailing list and find our Patreon.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our videos that are coming up. We just put a Parade of Dreams video up from, we think, 2006. It might be late 2005. I don't know. You go watch it and you tell us. But we've got a lot of other old videos that we will be putting up along with new videos as well. We've got DAPS D&D on Thursday nights at, 8:30? Is that when we do that?
And normally 8, but it tends to be 8:30 by the time we start.
That's what it is. It is supposed to be 8. So anyway, Thursday nights, DAPS D&D. We've got DAPS Magic Lives coming up, and we're going through extinct Disney attractions and determining which one will be the best extinct Disney attraction. So you don't want to miss those as we put those live as well. But we don't have much more time. That is all the time we have for tonight. So we will see you around the corner.